What is going on, y'all? It is the Caveman back at it again with another video, and I'm coming back at you with the Coach Me Up episodes. But before I do any kind of introduction, you guys know the drill around here. Mott's applesauce, if you're ever hungry, thirsty, whatever it might be, Mott's applesauce will satisfy whatever satisfying you're looking to satisfy. You have the Caveman guarantee. I promise it will never fail you. Anyways, regarding Coach Me Up, I am bringing it back. I stopped for just a couple weeks because I've been extremely busy, but nevertheless, I am going to bring it back. But instead of on a weekly basis, I'm going to do it every month. The last Friday of every month is when you should expect to see a Coach Me Up episode. If you don't know what Coach Me Up is not your traditional podcast interview style of video. Coach Me Up is when I have a guest on the channel and I ask them a series of questions through different games that I came up with called Devil's Advocate, 2-Minute Drill, as well as Brain Freeze. These three games spark conversation in a unique way. You'll get to know how those games work once we get into it. One more quick thing before I get into the episode. I had the honor of welcoming Louie T onto the channel for this installment of Coach Me Up. If you don't know who Louie T is, you're about to find out real quick. Louie is a Washington football team fan, and boy is he passionate, boy is he consistent. He makes his own YouTube content, which I'll have linked down in the description below. But I really admire what Louie does because this guy is the definition of a grinder. He's been at the YouTube content. He's been talking about football for as long as anybody else on this platform. He is by far one of the smartest football minds that I have ever talked to personally. He's extremely well spoken. He's extremely professional, and that is why he has the following that he has. If you go check him out on YouTube, which I strongly advise you do, he's almost at 20,000 subscribers, so be sure you subscribe to him over on there. But nevertheless, he took the time out of his day to talk to a smaller channel like myself, and that really meant the world to me. Somebody of his size, typically probably wouldn't give me the light of day to even respond to my DM on Twitter, but not only did he respond, but he took the time to set up this Coach Me Up episode, and it really meant the world to me. So thank you, Louie, for hopping on it. It was really awesome. So one more quick thank you to Louie for hopping on the channel, and let's get right into it. All right, so what is going on, everybody? I got my man Louie T on the channel. I am ecstatic to have Louie on. This is something that I've been trying to get together for a little bit now. One of my subscribers early on when I really started my channel pointed me toward Louie. He said you should reach out to him and try to do something like this with him. And I thought to myself, maybe in the future when I grow a little bit, then I'll reach out to him. And here we are. And this is something that it's really cool to me. It's kind of almost a surreal moment. And, Louie, just tell the viewers what to do, where you can find yourself, and just give yourself a little bit of an introduction, man.
Okay, so I am Louie T, host of the Louie T Network, and I am an NFL full spectrum channel. So all 32 teams. I do a live stream after every primetime game. So Monday nights after the game, Thursday nights after the game, Sunday nights after the game. I usually break down each team's draft. This year, kind of got a little sidetracked on that, but hopefully we'll be able to jump back in on that next year. But I do draft wrap-ups and draft breakdowns. I do prospect breakdowns, anything under the sun you can think of. Also have a podcast, Louie T Network podcast. All of that is available on my YouTube channel. You can get that podcast wherever you get a podcast. So Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, wherever you listen, you can get the Louie T Network podcast. So I'm on Twitter at Louie T Network. I'm on IG, Louie T Network _. So you can find me just about anywhere. Type in Louie T and it'll pop up.
Yeah, Louie's been at this for a long time, and I'm talking like he is the definition of consistency, and I really admire that. I was just telling him before we started the recording. He's been at this longer than anybody, and it's quite amazing. He's the biggest channel, the biggest person I've had on here too, so that's really cool. So I just want to say thank you before we get started for hopping on the channel, man. This is awesome.
I appreciate you having me, man. I really do.
Brain Freeze, and I'll just give it a little bit of an introduction for that game. Brain Freeze, I'm just going to give a little bit of a scenario of what has happened in the past, a different, a moment in a game or maybe a moment in a draft, and he's going to tell me whether or not I told it correctly. So it'll be a little more, it'll be easier to understand once I get into it. So we're going to start with the easier situation. So this is what we got. The first question. In Week 14 of the 2020 NFL season, the Washington football team defeated the San Francisco 49ers 23-15. The defense played outstanding as they scored more points this week than the football team's offense in their Week 14 victory. Is this 100% correct?
The Week 14 victory was against the defense scored. No, they did not score more points. They scored 2 touchdowns in that game against San Francisco. We beat the Steelers 17-14, I believe. So I would say that is incorrect.
Incorrect. That game, if maybe I was wrong, but that game I looked when it was against the 49ers. Nick Mullins threw a pick, and I believe they had a fumble recovery as well.
Yep.
Those both went to the house. That game finished 23-15.
Yep.
The defense scored 14 points that game. The offense had 9 because they had 3 straight field goals. So that game, I remember that game specifically because, I was thinking of different moments and I wanted to keep it Washington football team related for obvious reasons. And, I lost many fantasy games to the Washington football team defense that week. And I remember that one as soon as I saw the box score, I'm like, yeah, I remember that stinging when that happened. That was brutal.
Right.
So, all right. So moving on to the next one. This is not Washington football team related, but this is the medium one. In the AFC divisional round last season, the Chiefs lost quarterback Patrick Mahomes due to a head injury late in the game. Backup quarterback Chad Henne had a 3rd and long and tried to seal the deal. He completes a pass right down to the first down marker to make it 4th and inches, where the Chiefs go for it and finish the game.
Oh, that's a true statement.
True statement.
Yep, he got injured. Chad Henne came in. They were actually. I don't think he completed a pass. I think he ran.
Yes.
Actually, so it's actually false. He ran down, and I think he fell short by a yard, and then he threw the 4th down pass to seal the deal.
Yes, you are correct on that one. Yeah, 100% correct. I wasn't sure if you were going to catch it right away because I kind of skimmed over, but yes, you are completely right. Chad Henne kind of took a beating right before the first down marker, but he got there, and then the kind of like the trickery play, Tyreek Hill was kind of running around the backfield before the play on 4th down. I mean, for somebody that really didn't care that much about that game, that had me on the edge of my seat.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
And it should have, because your Bills were waiting the winner. So
that's fair. I mean, I cared. It was
you knew if the Browns somehow won that game, you guys would be hosting the AFC Championship. So.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair point. So I won't say I didn't care, but I remember at the time being very on the fence about how I should feel because I wanted to beat the team.
No doubt.
Yeah, I wanted to beat the Chiefs. So I know just based on how NFL fans are, especially on Twitter. I can't stand people on Twitter sometimes. Oh, you guys got the Mickey Mouse route to the Super Bowl because Mahomes I would have. And I know that if the Bills happened to go on, win that AFC Championship game, and got to the Super Bowl, and who knows, maybe even won it. That's all we would have heard.
Wanting to talk about it.
Yeah,
you can't try to convince people of anything, but at the end of the day, you're not giving that Lombardi back if you were to get there.
Exactly, that's what I mean.
You know what I mean? Forget about all of that.
So yeah, I was a little split, but it was what it was. I mean, I think I could safely say that what happened to the Chiefs would have probably happened to the Bills, just to maybe a little worse degree. But, maybe this is the year. We'll see.
Yeah, we will see. Very talented Bills team for sure.
All right, so for the hard one, this is the last brain freeze question, last scenario. In the NFC wildcard game, this is also Washington football team related. In the NFC wildcard game between the Buccaneers and the football team was trailing later in the 3rd quarter when Buccaneers running back Ronald Jones fumbles and Washington recovers, giving the football team life again. This was a large play in this game. Is this 100% correct?
Oh, that's false. It was their rookie running back from, I believe, he played in the ACC, Vanderbilt. Keyshawn Vaughn,
yes,
the victim of that fumble, and he did not see the field the remainder of the postseason.
Correct. You are 100% correct. You were right on that one. You got that one right away. I wasn't sure how. It's hard for me to figure out the degree of difficulty for some of these scenarios, but you got that one.
If you want to make it hard, it can't be anything related to my. I'm going to get it.
I probably should have thought that one through. I was thinking I wanted to keep it football team related. Funny enough, on that note, I think my most viewed video on my channel is a Washington football team video. As funny as that may sound.
Weird.
Yeah. I made a video because like you, I try to cover anything NFL related. I made a video talking about, I think it was a few months ago when they signed Fitzpatrick, about how they're going to be good this year. I made a video pretty much hyping them up a little bit, and I thought they were going to be relatively decent. And apparently the Washington fan base came across it.
Yeah. So that's what it was. if you make anything talking good about it, they're going to come in droves. So they were excited then too.
Yeah, and it was genuine. It was genuine excitement for that team because Fitzpatrick is a quarterback that when I first started watching football, he was our quarterback when I really started to pay attention to it. So
A lot of Bills fans have fond memories of Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Absolutely. So I like Terry McLaurin a lot. I'm a big fan of Terry McLaurin, so he's also another piece that I'm rooting for as well. The fact that he wasn't in the top 100
is criminal.
Oh,
yeah.
And DK Metcalf at 22. I mean, we're talking. This is like federal criminal activity out here. Yeah. This is ridiculous. Start with Devil's Advocate for the next one. Devil's Advocate, I'm sure most of the viewers know. I'm going to ask a relatively controversial question, and no matter what Louie says, whether I agree or disagree, I'm going to play the Devil's Advocate in the situation. Here is the question. Do you think Lamar Jackson, when he signs his contract, should get more money than Josh Allen?
I've made a case for both ways. Let me give you a little bit of background information. Sure. I'm a massive Josh Allen fan. He was my number one guy coming out of that 2018 NFL draft at the quarterback position. I swore to anybody that would listen that this guy's going to be a superstar.
Oh, go for you.
And there were a lot of Bills fans, like 2 years into his career, looking around saying, "Can we get rid of this dude already?" I'm like, "Are you guys kidding me? Relax. This guy's going to be now." I get it. When he first started, the completion percentage wasn't great. There were turnovers. He still has a bit of a fumbling problem when he runs. He doesn't always protect the football, but the guy's dynamic, man. And now he's finally put the accuracy piece of the puzzle together, and he's phenomenal. So if you're asking me, I'm somewhat biased. I don't think Lamar Jackson should be paid more than Josh Allen, but you could make a case. And when I played devil advocate against myself, I said, look, he's an MVP. Josh Allen is not an MVP. He's led his team to the postseason every single year of his career. So I'm going to say no. And you can go ahead and play devil's advocate.
All right. Yeah. So that'd be my first point, just as it would be anybody else. Lamar Jackson, he's got that unanimous MVP. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, he's one of the very few to be unanimous MVP. I'm not exactly sure who is on that list, but it's not very long. And not to mention, I would argue, at least at this point, that Lamar Jackson, his weapons as of the last maybe as far as last year went, definitely lacked. The year before that as well, you can make a case that the Bills had better weapons. Lamar Jackson, it's kind of himself. It's just him. He does a majority of the ball moving for that offense. Yep. Maybe Mark Ingram in 2019. J.K. Dobbins was helpful in 2020. Or Mark Ingram was there 2020. Yeah. Either way, he really doesn't have that much help. I mean, his best receiver is Marquise Brown, who I would say has a drop issue here and there. Mark Andrews, I feel like, I don't know. I don't think it's Mark Andrews' problem or his fault, I should say. Lamar Jackson, I think, has a hard time finding him. And for some reason, they got rid of Hayden Hurst. I never really understood that. I thought, I think Lamar Jackson's favorite targets are tight ends.
Right.
And for some reason, they got rid of Hayden Hurst. Anyway, unanimous MVP. The dude is completely dynamic. He's a franchise quarterback. And he's got more years of success than Josh Allen. I mean, he's been to the postseason 3 straight years. So I think he might deserve some more money than Josh. I feel so bad saying that.
I always like to say the next guy is the highest paid guy. So it really doesn't matter. I thought, and I love Brandon Beane. He's one of my favorite GMs in the league. I've already said that he's always out in front of these things. He always gets it right when it comes to these contracts, whether it's Deion Dawkins and getting out in front of that train before that thing got a little bit out of control. They always seem to pay their guys early so that they set the market. They set the bar. You don't want to come after somebody because they're going to set the bar high and now you have to eclipse it. He says, no, we're going to set the bar. Now you guys go ahead and pay your guy more than our guy. So always remember, today's overpay is tomorrow's deal.
Yeah.
The Bills got in front of that thing nice and early. And when we look back, the criminal part about all this is Baker Mayfield may actually get more than both of these guys, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But that's going because you guys got out in front of it. If I were the Browns, I don't necessarily know if I believe in Baker. I think they do. I would have went ahead and extended him already.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, speaking of Baker Mayfield, that they definitely made a humongous mistake by waiting. I would have thought the Browns should have, reached out to Baker, made that deal, completed that deal before the Bills or Baltimore. I mean, they should have been talking about ahead of the game. They got to be ahead of the game. And, as much credit as I want to give the front offices and I want to give the coaching staff to Cleveland, that definitely something they dropped the ball on for sure.
Yeah. I think they're going to end up overpaying for Baker Mayfield, but that's their problem.
All right. So, I mean, that really hurt to say, but yeah, I mean, Lamar Jackson definitely does not deserve more money than Josh Allen.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was Shannon Sharp that said it. I don't know, yesterday or the day before, but he said it's year by year. You know, you're not paying a guy just because he was the unanimous MVP a couple of years ago. You're paying him based on what happened the previous year. That's why the term contract year is a thing, right? I mean, you want to play well going into your contract year so you get paid.
Right.
So, yeah, no, Josh Allen definitely deserves more money than Lamar Jackson at the end of the day. That was a painful devil's advocate for sure.
Yeah, well, without a doubt. You know, there's also, you know, a body of work, but you're not paying a guy for what they've done more so than what you think they're going to provide for you in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you also got to think about it that way too. And, you know, I don't know. I guess to go off on a tangent, I've been really dying to ask this question lately to really anybody. You know, how far behind do you view Kyler Murray to Lamar Jackson?
You said behind?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that depends. Where do you view the two? How would you, you know, in comparison to each other?
As a passer, I think Kyler Murray is ahead of Lamar. But as a football player, as a total playmaker, I think Lamar is light years ahead of him because for me, Kyler Murray, at times, first of all, the size thing is a real thing. I think there are times where he doesn't see the field all that well, so he makes some ill-advised throws. I think that he doesn't like contact. No quarterback wants to get hit. You know what I mean? And everybody wish they were Josh Allen size at 6'5", 235, but that's not the case. Nobody really wants to get hit, but Kyler Murray really, really doesn't want to get hit. Like he'll run parallel to the line of scrimmage out of bounds just to avoid contact. And so I think there are some things in his game that I think need more developing as far as when he decides to use his legs. But Kyler Murray is an exceptional football player and a quarterback. But I think Lamar Jackson, you can more so strap a team to Lamar Jackson's back and win football games more so than you can Kyler Murray. I don't think he is capable of carrying a team. Like they needed him down the stretch last year. And yeah, granted, he was a little banged up in Nick, but he didn't show up when they needed him. They had a home game against a lifeless 49ers team on a Saturday last year.
I remember that one.
And with a chance to clinch a playoff berth. And they let the 49ers, who were playing with C.J. Beathard at quarterback, come into Arizona and beat. That can't happen when you're Kyler Murray. So I think that he is behind Lamar Jackson from a total package standpoint. But, as a passer, I think Lamar has some developing to do in that regard. But I take Lamar Jackson over Kyler Murray right now any day.
Yeah, that seems to be the general consensus. And I guess right now I'd be jumping the gun to say that I would take Kyler Murray over Lamar. That would be a little crazy. But I truly do think, just based on the trajectory I see between these two guys for their future, I can't help but say I'm seeing Kyler Murray coming out as the better quarterback down the stretch. I just think, Lamar Jackson, I think it was Colin Cowherd that made a good point. Lamar Jackson goes down with, an ACL tear or a bad ankle and bad foot injury, whatever it might be. I mean, he's really going to have a hard time coming back because, who's to say he's ever going to develop into a passer? I mean, his main game is the run, right? If he loses that ability, I mean, Lamar Jackson's lost, right? I think Kyler Murray, I see a trajectory of development with passing where he could, maybe go down with an injury. He could take a couple hits here and there, but he'd be able to develop and adjust to being a pocket passer. He could adjust to passing first. But yeah, I don't know. I just really am on the fence about it. I know some people call me a Lamar hater, but I don't know.
A lot of people feel that way. You're not alone there.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, I always just look at it like this. A lot of people used to say the same thing about Steve Young. A lot of people used to say the same thing about Michael Vick. Those guys, they matured as passers as their careers, went along. I don't know if Lamar Jackson is going to do that or not, but I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt because I've seen it done before. You can't run around forever. At some point you have to mature as a passer. Randall Cunningham, same thing. At some point you have to become a better passer of the football. And I think he ultimately will. I don't know if he'll ever be at the level that is necessary for him to literally carve up NFL defenses with just his arm. But I think it'll be good enough to suffice to where he can, do his part with his arm to really help his legs out a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly hope so because I don't mean to really trash him because Lamar Jackson, the person, Lamar Jackson, the human being, by far one of the best personalities, one of the best people in the NFL. I love Lamar Jackson. He's a great guy. I don't know, just something about the way I feel like I'm still watching Lamar Jackson, the rookie, when he's passing. Like, I feel like
at times it can feel like that at times.
It does. And, I want to also blame his weapons. I want to also blame the coaching staff, which I do think his coaching staff, I feel like it's a weird combination of it's made Lamar Jackson, but now it's not really, it's kind of hindering Lamar Jackson's growth now. I feel like it's a help but hurt kind of scenario with that. I feel very mixed about Lamar Jackson and his situation with the coaching staff. Finish off with the 2-minute drill questions. These are just going to be, I'll put a timer up on screen when I'm editing it, but just 30 seconds. I'm going to ask 5 questions. You just got to answer them quickly just to keep you on your toes. And I will start the timer once I edit when you answer the first question. Which rookie QB has looked the best so far this preseason?
Mac Jones.
Are you happy with the Washington football team's offseason?
Yes.
Should the Packers have dealt Aaron Rodgers?
No.
Will Jarrett Patterson make the Washington football team's roster?
Yes.
Out of all starting quarterbacks, where would you rank Kyler Murray?
Somewhere in between 12 and 17.
I think that's pretty fair. All right. Yeah, I forgot I even put that in there. That's how bad I wanted to get your opinion on Kyler Murray. So I completely forgot. So, yeah, Mac Jones, I really like your answer to the first one. And that also pains me to say as a Bills fan. I mean, he literally looks like a clone. It's kind of scary. He hits every check down. He hits the out routes perfectly. He kind of is just looking like what Tom Brady was. He's just kind of stepping in and filling that role. Mm-hmm. Not nearly to the same level that Tom Brady did, but, I can easily see him forming right into that role. It's kind of scary. It's truly very, very, very scary.
It should be very frightening if you're in the AFC East, because I said that was one of those guys that you really don't want Belichick and Josh McDaniels to get their hands on, because he looks just like Tom Brady, operates just like Tom Brady. I mean, I think I said this after, because we played them in week 1 of the preseason. Washington played the Patriots, and so we got the first look at Mac Jones in the preseason. And I said, if they just put a 12 on his back and no nameplate, you would have thought that Tom Brady was still playing for the New England Patriots.
Honest to God. I
mean, he was so surgical. At one point against us, he completed 11 straight passes. And they were running. This is the guy's first preseason game. They were running no huddle in the third quarter of the game with Mac Jones, the quarterback. We got our second and third stringers in there gasping for air. They're going right down the field on us. And completing every little pass, like you said, hitting the check down and the timing and rhythm of the play. 5-yard speed out, boop, hits that. And it was just really methodical. And I said this when he came out. I'm not the biggest Mac Jones fan, but I said, of all the quarterbacks in this year's draft class, he was the most NFL ready, because he was going to be the one that was going to come in and be able to process things, read NFL defenses, and make quick, rapid decisions with the football, which a lot of these guys, whether you're talking Zach Wilson or you're talking Trey Lance or you're talking Trevor Lawrence, a lot of these guys have athleticism. They're able to extend plays. And they were on dominant teams, so these guys didn't have to run around a lot. You know what I'm saying? And so was Mac Jones. I don't want to make it seem like he wasn't on a dominant team, because he was, but he was able to really diagnose defenses and get the football where it needed to go. And I think you could see with a lot of these guys taking sacks. Mac Jones hasn't been taking a lot of sacks in this preseason, whereas Trey Lance and Trevor Lawrence, specifically those two, and Justin Fields, don't want to leave him out. They've been taking a ton of sacks. So he's getting rid of the football. And I still think that the upside for the other guys is higher, but I don't think there was a better fit for a quarterback and a team than Mac Jones and the New England Patriots.
Absolutely. You touched on the point that I was going to make, and I can go right off of that. Mac Jones has rarely gotten sacked. I don't even know if he's gotten sacked yet, to be honest. And, all of these other quarterbacks, all these rookie quarterbacks, they're out there making all these flashy big plays, rolling out of the pocket, doing all this fancy stuff. And, Mac Jones is just getting the job done, and he's not making mistakes. And that's what scares me the most, is he's just not making any mistakes. And you see all these other quarterbacks, all these other rookie quarterbacks making all these flashy plays here and there. But at the end of the day, they're still making a bunch of mistakes too. You're just not going to see them as much. Whereas Mac Jones, we're not seeing his flashy plays because there really aren't many, but he's also not making any mistakes. I think that's something that is something that really scares me. And like you said, he's not getting hit. That's also something that is, that's on Mac Jones. He's got a good offensive line in front of him, but he's in a rhythm. He's found a groove, and he's two preseason games in.
I can tell you this, with Cam Newton having that little snafu this
right.
It's opened the door for Mac Jones to potentially be the week 1 starter. I mean, I know they're not happy with him at all about this.
Oh, no, I know. They claim it was a misunderstanding, but I mean, who knows what's going to happen with that. I think that if there was a time that Belichick and the coaching staff was going to try and find a way to bench Cam Newton without just straight out benching him, this is going to be their out. So, yeah, that's an interesting point. They could really jump on this opportunity.
Yep, for sure.
All right. The next question was, are you happy with the Washington football team's offseason? You answered yes.
Yes. I am.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything else to say.
Yeah. I mean, when you go into the offseason as a fan, a lot of times, because you consume so much of the product, you know exactly what the team needs to do that offseason to improve and be better than they were the year before. So I'm pretty sure as a fan, you can attest to this. You've watched 16 games in a regular season, and if your team's lucky enough, you play in some postseason games. And after seeing all of that, you walk away saying, okay, we need some help. If you're a Bills fan, we got to get to the quarterback, man. Jerry Hughes is getting up there in age. We got to find a way to address edge rusher, And you look at various other positions on the team, and you think, okay, if Matt Milano's not back, we got to get a linebacker, but we need to re-sign Matt Milano. These are the things you're saying as a Bills fan, because you've made a checklist watching the season, and you see the players you want to retain. You see some areas that may be of weakness. So you're like, these are things that we need to do. And as a Washington fan, we made a checklist of items. First thing was on the list was, hey, we got to upgrade, or, running back, we got to upgrade linebacker. We got to upgrade the quarterback position, and we got to upgrade wide receiver. And you could put them in whatever order you wanted to, but we all knew we were getting a receiver in free agency because we had set up our cap to where we had money allotted, kind of set aside. We are spending money on a receiver. So that was the first thing on the list. Get a wide receiver to help Terry McLaurin, because he cannot do this by himself. It was so bad last year that they didn't just get one receiver. They didn't just get two receivers. They added four receivers, in the offseason. They drafted a 7th-round receiver, Dax Milne out of BYU. They drafted a 3rd-round receiver in De'Ami Brown out of North Carolina. They signed Adam Humphries in free agency, and they signed Curtis Samuel in free agency. So never, ever trust a man with 2 first names. That is. So 4 receivers they added to the group from last year, just to let you know how bad they felt like the core was outside of Terry McLaurin. So it was really eye-opening to see just how over the top they went with receiver, but that just goes to show you how they felt about the receiving core a season ago. Linebacker, they spent the 19th pick in the draft on linebacker when a lot of fans thought they should have gone in a different direction. But again, that was just how dire that need was, that they decided to go and address linebacker. So, and then, Ryan Fitzpatrick, that's not what we all envisioned. I can tell you right now, I did not want Ryan Fitzpatrick. And I don't think he's going to go like a lot of fans wanted to. They're talking crazy 11-6, 12-5.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't see that happening with Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback, but this was a really unique offseason. We went after Matthew Stafford, swung and missed on that one. We were in on Aaron Rodgers, but that never came to fruition. Everybody was looking around and sniffing around that Russell Wilson situation with the Seahawks. Yeah, watching that one closely. Same with Deshaun Watson, and then that kind of went south. So this was one of the rare off seasons where you could go out and get a quarterback that could potentially, or at least there were opportunities potentially to get a quarterback that could potentially change your franchise's outlook. Whether it was Stafford, if you believe in Carson Wentz, which I didn't, but I think he's a really good quarterback, but he needs to be where he is in Indianapolis. But, if if Rodgers would have come available, if Wilson or Watson. I mean, it was a crazy offseason. That generally doesn't happen in the NFL, and it was a crazy offseason, to say the least. But we got a lot of things done. I was really satisfied with what we were able to do, and we got a corner. We lost a corner, and then we feel like we upgraded with William Jackson III.
Yeah, I mean, you guys were as active as it comes when it came to the offseason. And I was going to ask you, were you satisfied with Ryan Fitzpatrick? Or, one of the few issues, I guess you could say, I had with the Washington football team's offseason was, I just kind of felt like the Ryan Fitzpatrick answer was just very, short term, which I guess is fine. That's not a bad thing. Sometimes you just need a filler for a season before you can take the next step in the right direction. And then, Josh Rosen, that whole situation went down. And I kind of thought there were some teams out there, and obviously he went to the Falcons now. There were a few teams that I was thinking like, okay, maybe you can bring him under, your veteran quarterback's wing and have him develop somewhere, and maybe Josh Rosen can revive his career. And the football team was a team that I thought of that maybe bring him in, give him a shot. Obviously that didn't happen, but would you have liked to see something like that?
Absolutely not. Josh Rosen thinks.
Yeah.
I don't think he is going to end up being like, I just look at it like this. He's been on how many different teams? How many teams have thought that same thing you just said? Hey, we'll bring him in. We got a veteran. We'll let the kids sit and learn, and then we'll give him an opportunity. Yep. And I thought at least on 2 or 3 different occasions, like, okay, this is the perfect spot for him. He doesn't have to play. He's behind a veteran. I thought that in Miami. He's behind Fitzpatrick. Okay, he'll have a shot there. And then he gets in the game and he wets himself.
Yep.
So then I said, okay, he goes to Tampa and he's sitting behind Tom Brady. I'm like, it can't get any better than this. This is perfect for him. He'll never play. He'll learn. Yep. And then when his time actually shows up in 2030, he should be ready. When Tom's 60 and he's ready to retire. But they got rid of him. Like, okay, this guy, they saw enough. I said,
there's an issue, right?
Then he goes to San Francisco. I'm like, this is the best situation, not Tampa Bay, because it's Kyle Shanahan. If anybody can take a quarterback and make him look way better than what he really is, it's Kyle Shanahan. Mm-hmm. And he gave up on him. So I'm like, okay, this guy really must stink. And I thought his career was over, to be honest with you. And if not for the injury to A.J. McCarron, I don't think he gets an opportunity. I think the Falcons, and I don't even think that's a good spot for him, because if you go with your premise of putting him behind a backup or a veteran, let him learn, then Atlanta is a great spot for him. But they signed him because they need a veteran. They need somebody behind Matt Ryan. Yep. He's not the definition of a backup quarterback in this league because he hasn't even proven that he can do it yet. So he doesn't even fall in the category of a true NFL backup quarterback. Like the Falcons, I don't know what they think this upcoming season is going to be. If they're looking at this as part of a rebuild, or if they like, look, we got enough talent. We think, we can make some noise this year. If that's the case, then you need a Matt Moore. You need a Josh McCown. You need one of those guys that if something happens to Matt Ryan and he's out 2 to 4 weeks, you got a veteran, a proven commodity in this league that can step in and give you quality snaps while Matt Ryan is on the mend. We can't say that about Josh Rosen. He's been awful. So I personally wanted to kick the tires on a couple of retreads. I'm a Mitchell Trubisky fan. I didn't want him in Washington, but I like Mitchell Trubisky a lot. And I love what he just did to the Bears.
Oh, yeah.
Revenge is a dish best served ice cold. And that was cold. What he just did to the Chicago Bears in the preseason game. But I really wanted to kick the tires on Marcus Mariota. And the Raiders pretty much said, hands off. He's ours. So,
hey, a tangent I want to take on that. Do you first I'll ask, do you think Mariota could be a starter in the NFL? Do you think there are places he could be taking and he could step in and be a starter? Do you think he's at that point?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there were teams interested, and that's why the Raiders did what they did this offseason, which is they pretty much didn't trade him. And then they waited until because everyone was kind of positioned in that game of quarterback musical chairs at the beginning of free agency. And the Raiders waited until all those chairs were filled with quarterbacks. Jacoby Brissett goes to Miami. Washington takes Ryan Fitzpatrick. The Bears take Andy Dalton. The Texans take Tyrod Taylor. Everybody gets a quarterback in their chair. And then they say, hey, Marcus, either you're going to take this pay cut or we're going to release you.
Yep.
He wouldn't have had anywhere to go. I mean, someone would have gave him an opportunity, but it wouldn't have been in the starting capacity. So he had to essentially take a pay cut. And the Raiders knew what they were doing. Had they made that decision earlier, teams would have waited, and then they would have been put in a tough position. But they waited until everybody took a veteran, and then they said, oh, by the way, Marcus, we need you to take a pay cut or we're going to have to cut you. So he took the pay cut. And I think there would have been 2 or 3 teams that would have been really interesting. I think Washington was one of them.
I love Mariota. I think Mariota, I agree with everything you said. And, I like Derek Carr as well. I think I would lump the Raiders almost in the same category as the Falcons of I don't know what they're expecting to happen. I'm not sure what they're waiting for. They're kind of just in this, they're going to end up in this loop of mediocrity of really not getting anywhere. Yeah. And, I would have liked them. I think Marcus Mariota could really help out the Raiders. I mean, he stepped in when Derek Carr, pulled his hammy for, I don't know if he played the rest of that game. I'm not sure who it was against, but Mariota stepped in. It looked like he hadn't missed a beat.
It was the Chargers on a Thursday night. Yeah, it was excellent. That's what I think a lot of people got excited about. Me included. He looked great that night.
And I was thinking that's no mistake, right? You don't just step in and look like you don't miss a beat by mistake. So he's ready. I think he just needs an opportunity. So that's interesting. That's another guy that I've been, thinking about over the last couple of weeks. Why hasn't he gotten the right opportunity? Because I was doing a show with one of my Built in Buffalo members, and he asked me a question like, what quarterback situation would you consider the best in the NFL? And I think the Raiders are probably up there, in terms of your combination, your duo. I think they probably have the best duo in the NFL. I mean, between a starter and a backup. So I think I would like to see Mariota get another chance. Speaking on the Raiders specifically, I think they just kind of need to restart. I don't know what they're waiting for. The Falcons, like you said, what are they waiting for? What are they doing? You trade Julio Jones away, and then you're just kind of sitting around with Matt Bryant. I don't know. Those 2 teams, there are a couple teams that I'm just, I don't think they really know what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, you get a new coach in there. He didn't have an opportunity to hit the reset button a lot of times. Yeah. It's not like how the Dolphins were with Brian Flores, where they're like, look, we're blowing this up, dude. If you want to be a part of this, come on. We'll allow you to lose and try to figure it out. And in that first year, that's essentially what he did, is got rid of all the guys that weren't buying in. They stunk. But he was like, hey, we're going to change the culture. And they did. And they, rebounded and won 10, 11 games last year. Yeah. But I'm looking at Mariota and I'm saying, why can't he be Ryan Tannehill? Right. Like the guy that replaced him in Tennessee. Why can't you be a failed former first round pick somewhere else, go sit behind someone for a couple of years, and then figure it out the second time you get an opportunity to start and be a really good quarterback in this league? That's the way I look at Marcus Mariota. I could be wrong about him. He may not be Ryan Tannehill 2.0, but I said, why can't he be that?
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, that might be exactly what Jameis Winston is on track to be doing right now.
That's exactly what he's trying to do.
And it was pretty miraculous to see, given it's just preseason. But once again, you don't do that by mistake. He's got talent, so I'm excited to see Jameis Winston, because I was worried that Sean Payton was just, I don't know. I think he's got something going on with Taysom Hill. I'm not sure what it is. I don't want to get into details about that, but I just thought for some reason Taysom Hill might get the job, or they might try and do this thing where they almost like what Doug Peterson was trying to do with Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts, bring in Jalen Hurts here and there, or they would bring in Sean Payton, bring in Taysom Hill, and they would just kind of switch them out. I don't know. I just think to get the maximum value out of your offense, you need Jameis Winston in there. I think Taysom Hill helps himself, and I think that's about it, but he drags the value down of everybody else around him. So oh my God, there's so many tangents that we can get into, but I'll ask you the next question. You answered. Do you answered no? Do you think that the Packers should deal Aaron Rodgers? What are you thinking behind that?
So, the Packers have a window of opportunity to win a Super Bowl, and they're not stupid. They understand that. They know that if they trade Aaron Rodgers, that window effectively shuts immediately. They're not winning a Super Bowl with Jordan Love right now. Not to say that he won't lead them to a Super Bowl, 3-4 years from now, but he's not coming in year one as a second year quarterback and leading the Packers to anything meaningful. This is a team that's knocking literally on the door. They've been in the NFC Championship game now 2 years in a row. And so they feel like they're dangerously close to getting to a Super Bowl. And Aaron Rodgers is coming off of an MVP season. When's the last time a quarterback won an MVP and then played for a different team the following season? It never happens. Why? Because that's the craziest thing ever. the most important position in all of sports, if you ask me, in all of team sports. And you're going to just get rid of that guy the next year because you want to play a guy that's unproven on a team that's ready to win now. Like, you've got one more year of Devontae Adams. We don't know what's going to happen. They could obviously use the franchise tag if they can't reach a long-term agreement. But yeah, one more year conceivably of him. And you've got a number of guys that have uncertain futures in Green Bay. And so those windows all kind of align with one another. It's a veteran team. They're ready to win now. You got Aaron Rodgers, who's the best guy equipped to take you where you want to go. It's all about winning Lombardis in this sport. And so are you going to throw away an opportunity to do that? Or just because you want to see what Jordan Love can provide for you? You've got one more year to let Jordan Love sit and stew on the bench before you have to then make a decision on what, because then you start getting into that, picking up the 5th-year option. Can this guy really play?
Yeah, and you don't know.
Really have. I think this is the last year of Aaron Rodgers because this is the 3rd year of Jordan Love. So I think last year of Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, then I think they ship him out after this season. Love gets the nod next year, and then they got to start figuring out, is this the guy that can be the successor or not? It's crazy because they kind of painted the picture of, we want Aaron to finish his career in Green Bay. It's hard for me to envision that happening with a quarterback like Jordan Love on the roster and knowing that you drafted him and you expected him to take his spot. Similar to, and Aaron Rodgers knows how this goes, which is why he was so salty about it. Because it happened while he was there with Brett Favre. You know what I mean? He was a part of that thing and that transition. So he knows that what they were trying to do, and he didn't feel, good about it, and especially them not telling him about this. So they did the right thing by trying to mend fences. They essentially gave him what he wanted, which was, hey, I get to figure out how my future ends here. And, get me Randall Cobb, too. I want my best friend on the team.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I feel strongly about this, but I take the opposite side. I think the Packers, ironically enough, it's great to be good, and it's great to be good all the time, and they haven't been great all the time, but I just feel like the Packers, if it was going to be a year, it would have been last year, and let me tell you why. And, they've gotten there many times. They've gotten and knocked on the door numerous times. They couldn't do it before Brady entered. Now Brady's here. You had an MVP caliber quarterback play out of his mind the entire season. You blew your opportunity to beat Tom Brady on a Buccaneers team that was not necessarily in rhythm. That's your best opportunity. I thought that was their best chance last year right there. And I think this last season, they kind of did everything they could to keep Aaron Rodgers here. And I think they're going to ultimately end up screwing themselves for another year of pretty much just, what's the word? Endless or empty hope. I can't think of the actual word I'm trying to think of. I just think, especially with the Rams acquiring Matthew Stafford as well, I think the Packers, I think their best chance was last year. I think they probably should have moved on, got what they could have gotten in an Aaron Rodgers deal. And, not to mention that next season too, if Aaron Rodgers, and what I assume Aaron Rodgers is going to want out, teams are going to know that. They're going to take advantage of that. And I feel like they would have gotten more this offseason for Aaron Rodgers with the uncertainty of the situation being up in the air in comparison to the next season where most teams are probably going to know whether or not he wants out. So I think, they'll get lowballed in that situation. And I also think that it's kind of just false hope. That's what I was thinking of. False hope this season.
Well, I'll tell you this. There is no lowball in the Packers for Aaron Rodgers. They're going to extract value. But I can tell you this. It's to the Packers' benefit to not trade him when they had a chance to trade him. Here's why. You don't know where a team will be drafting in the upcoming year. So if you go through the season and Aaron wants out still and you're ready to see Jordan Love, you trade him then because now I can look at, say, let's just throw out a random team. Let's say the Raiders. All of a sudden, Aaron wants to go back closer to home. He's from the Bay Area. Okay. The Raiders come calling, and he says they ended up going 6-11 this year, right? And they've got the number 9 pick in the draft. Well, they know that the Raiders have the 9th pick in the draft now. So before, if you trade him to Vegas, you don't know what pick they're going to have. They could have an extraordinary season and lose in the AFC Championship game, and now you're getting the 30th pick in the draft.
Right.
So it's a lot
Okay.
easier to negotiate and deal someone when you know exactly what you're getting. And I think the Packers want to know exactly what they're going to be getting when they trade Aaron Rodgers. And so I think it'll be more advantageous for them to move him after the season. And not only that, he'll be 1 year older, and you would have essentially gone through that window of opportunity because, again, you can make up your mind on Devontae Adams. This is the last year of Adams. Remember, they had the synchronized last, dance.
The last dance, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
So there's a lot of that going on. And I think the brass knows this as well. This might be the last year. It could be. You know what I mean? So just let's see if we can get it done in this final year. And then everybody will part ways. Devontae Adams, if they really love him, they'll franchise him, try to find a way to work out a deal there. If not, he's dying to go play with his buddy, Derek Carr. So, that could be a situation where I did a podcast episode where I said, could the Packers be on the verge of sucking? Because think about it. If Jordan Love isn't, and I think he actually is really talented and going to be a good quarterback, but if he's not good, you lose Devontae Adams. There's no more Aaron Rodgers. Who are the Green Bay Packers all of a sudden?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, wow. So we'll see. It's an interesting dynamic. I think they did the right thing because they still have a shot to win the Super Bowl.
Fair enough, and I guess that's probably where we disagree. I just, for some reason, I just
No,
don't see it.
I think you're right. I think you're spot on about the fact that last year probably was their best shot. I mean, you had home field advantage throughout. Like,
Absolutely.
One thing we can always say about Aaron Rodgers is that he's been in all these NFC Championship games, but they've always been on the road. When you talk about getting blown out, against Atlanta, or getting blown out to the 49ers 2 years ago, they were always on the road in those circumstances, in those situations. He was home for the first time in one of these NFC Championship games, and they weren't able to get it done. I think that was a golden opportunity, but who's to say what happens this year? They could be back in that situation and this time get it done.
Fair point. Absolutely. And you opened my eyes to a couple of different perspectives with the way you don't know where you're going to be drafting, Absolutely. Definitely. You made some great points that I never really considered before. But anyway, to keep the train moving, I asked about Jared Patterson making the Washington football team roster. He's from UB. I live 15 minutes away from UB.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Yeah. So Jared Patterson, we know a lot about Jared Patterson around here, and we've been rooting for him. So it's really cool to be seeing this guy get an opportunity. Yeah. And, I'm not really too in depth. I haven't really been watching the preseason as far as beside for the Buffalo Bills. I have seen Jared Patterson's stats, but I wasn't sure, second stringers, third stringers, who he was actually going against. But it's nice to hear that, he's actually got a good shot to make it. That's awesome.
Oh no, he's all but a lock at this point. I mean, they want to see him in one more preseason game versus the Ravens, and I can't imagine him not continuing to do what he's done to this point. I mean, all-purpose yards wise, I think he's second in the preseason right now in all-purpose yards. The guy had in the last game, he had, I want to say, like 70 some odd yards rushing. He had another 30 or so yards receiving, and then he had a 37-yard kickoff return. So, I mean, he's a jack of all trades right now, and he can do no wrong. And I think the thing I was most impressed with that I didn't know about him coming out of UB, because they didn't really utilize him in this fashion, is that he's got natural hands. He can catch the football. They just didn't throw it to him because he was so dynamic rushing the football. So to see him catch it as seamlessly as he does, it's been outstanding because, you get everything you're looking for in one small, nice, tight, neat package with Jared Patterson. I think he has really impressed them to the point where they had no intentions of keeping four backs. The number has always been three. They wanted to keep three. They kept three last year. They're going to keep four this year because they cannot afford to put this guy, expose him to the rest of the league. He's been that good for them, and they're going to find a way to make space on the roster, even if that means, having that come at the expense of an offensive lineman.
Yeah, and absolutely. And funny enough, Jared Patterson, like you said, he didn't have to catch the ball at UB. I mean, the dude had 8 touchdowns in a single game. And, we were mad. Like, the city of Buffalo was kind of mad because they were down in the red zone, like at the 5-yard line or something like that at the end of that game. And the coach put in the other running back. And he claimed, because that would have been the record, 9 touchdowns would have been the record. And the coach claimed, Jared Patterson claimed they had no idea. That's a lot of BS. They definitely knew. And we were kind of upset. We wanted Jared Patterson to get the record. But nevertheless, like you said, I mean, the dude he's fantastic. And it would be awesome to see. I mean, obviously, this is a great situation to be in. But it's almost kind of unfortunate in some sort of way that, you have such a young back already in Antonio Gibson. You don't really want to take carries away from him either. I mean, that dude, Antonio Gibson's different. Like that, he's awesome. J.D. McKissick's the third down back, obviously, as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the room's already filled, but it's awesome to hear that he's actually getting the opportunity and he will get in the future. That's fantastic for him.
Yeah, it is awesome. It's an awesome story, too, because he grew up a Washington football team fan. Like his mom has a shrine literally in her basement where they watch the games. And this was his dream. He wanted to be a member of this team. Chase Young's his best friend. Like, I mean, it's insane. It's insane.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's awesome to hear. And moving on, the final question I asked was, where do you see Kyler Murray amongst quarterbacks in the NFL? Your answer was 12 to 17, I believe. If you had to narrow it down, who you bumping back? Where you putting Kyler?
So that was a good question on the spot because we have these discussions on my channel all the time about where quarterbacks rank. It's everybody loves to rank players.
Oh yeah, it's the favorite
pastime.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So obviously for me, my top 5 is in any order you want to put them in. It's Mahomes, it's Rodgers, it's Wilson, it's Brady, and it's Watson. Like you can put them however you want, or excuse me, Allen, not Brady, Allen. And I have Brady outside of my top 5. I thought Brady was good. I think he was great last year. I thought he did an admirable job of taking a good roster. A lot of people fail to realize Tampa Bay was loaded before he got there. They just had Jameis Winston at quarterback. So Brady came in, managed the show. The defense got better. They added some really talented young players on that side of the ball. They fortified the offensive line, and he did the rest. So I don't want to take anything away from Tom Brady. He was magnificent, but he's not a top 5 quarterback in this league. If you ask me, and you ask, a lot of people, they'll tell you crazy. He just won the Super Bowl again. And I get that. But if we're just talking about talent wise, it's Allen, it's Mahomes, it's Wilson, it's Rodgers, and it's Watson. And in any order you want to put them, Mahomes is 1, and then you can start putting them wherever you want. And so after that group, I think that next group is, Brady. You got Roethlisberger in there somewhere.
You think so?
Stafford. I mean, I still think he plays at a high level. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I know you said you haven't been watching a lot of the preseason. They drafted a tight end named Pat Freiermuth from Penn State. That is going to make all the difference in the world if he can stay healthy, because Ben loves his tight ends down in the red zone. He's missed a Heath Miller type of guy, someone he can rely on down in the red zone, force it to. He had 2 beautiful touchdown tosses to Freiermuth in the preseason game over the weekend where you just say, oh my God, if that's going to be a normal occurrence, they're going to be scary. Because one of the problems the Steelers had is they could get down there. They just had a tough time getting it in once they did get down there. This guy just changes the game. He catches everything. So anyway, I think Ben's going to be fine. So I think Ben's in that next group still, even though he's probably towards the tail end. He's closer to 11 than he is 5. But I think it's, Brady, Roethlisberger, the old guard still holding on. You got Stafford in there. I'm higher on Stafford than a lot of people, I think. I think Stafford's fantastic.
I agree. We're on the same page with most of it here, 100%.
You got Lamar Jackson in that group as well. I know a lot of people don't love him as a passer, but he's a playmaker. He's a difference maker, and it's a reason his team wins 11, 12 games every year. So he's in that mix, and I want to make sure. I know a lot of people love Justin Herbert. I'm not ready to put him in there and anoint him yet.
Me either.
I need to see it again.
Yep.
And if he does it again, then we can start having a conversation about him penetrating the top 10 and possibly getting up into that top 5. Let's go top 7 first, and then maybe he can penetrate top 5. But he's interesting, but he's not there yet. I need to see it again. I'm just trying to go through all the divisions in my head so I don't forget anybody in particular. I think, Matt Ryan is in that discussion still. He's a really good quarterback. Make sure. No more Breeze. Nobody in our division. I mean, Dak Prescott's really good. I don't think he is necessarily top 10. I think he's right on the outskirts. He's more of that 11, 12, 13 range, right in there somewhere. So I think Murray would be right in that same range. I think he's right there where Dak Prescott is, right in that 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 range. Somewhere probably right in there is where I would put Kyler Murray. I don't think he's 10. More like 11, 12, 13, 14, somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. What about Tannehill? Where do you have him?
I still think that Ryan Tannehill is, first of all, I like Ryan Tannehill a lot. But anytime you say, first of all, and then you say, I really like a guy, and then a conjunction is said, then disrespect is probably going to follow that conjunction. So I really like Ryan Tannehill, but I think he is a product of his environment. I think they've put him in such a great system for his skill set that it allows him to play really well, that if you isolated him from that system in Tennessee and you said, hey, go win us a game, I don't think he's capable of doing that.
Yeah.
So I think he is excellent off play action fake. I think he throws one of the most beautiful deep balls in all of the sport. So you pair that with a dominant run game and teams having to put 8 defenders, sometimes 9 in the box, that allows him to go over the top. That's why they went out and got Julio, because they said, we dare you to put 8 in the box now, because we got AJ on one side and we got Julio on the other. Jeez. You put 8 in the box, we're throwing it deep to one of those guys, because you only got one safety now if you got 8 in the box. You can't cover both of them. So if you don't put 8 in the box, well, we're just going to bludgeon you to death with Derrick Henry. So you got to choose your, essentially pick your poison now. So I think Tannehill's good, but he's not in that discussion. When you talk about top 10 quarterbacks and guys like it, you can strap a team to their back. I mean, there were playoff games in that nice little run they had to the AFC Championship game. There were games where this guy had less than 10 passing attempts. Like, that's a stat out of the 70s or 80s. Like, who's doing that? Crazy. So I like Ryan Tannehill a lot. I just don't think he's a guy that can carry a team.
Okay. Yeah, and you made a point about Herbert, which I really wanted to piggyback on. You think, it's 1 year, you got to see more. And he had I don't want to use the word historic, but he had a great year, Yeah, and absolutely. I feel the same way about Justin Herbert. People that think that way about Justin Herbert, I feel like you just have to apply it to Justin Jefferson too. People are so quick to throw him in the top 10 already. I get it. 1,400 yards first year. It's fantastic. I got to see it again before I'm putting him in there. I just feel like it's so disrespectful to guys that have been playing at such an elite level for multiple years now, just to throw Justin Jefferson in there. And I feel like if you feel that way about Justin Herbert in particular, it's got to also apply to Justin Jefferson too. Yeah. And that's something that really, really pinches my nerves, is when people are just so quick to throw Justin Jefferson up there.
I can tell you this: they don't treat those two positions the same. Which they don't treat quarterback like any of them. In everyone's mind, if you can come in the league and do that in year one as a receiver, more likely than not, you can do that again. And DBs aren't going to be able to stop you. You're going to be able to get open. But, we've seen it before. It's highly unlikely that he, if he's healthy, isn't going to be able to put up, over 1,000 yards again. But we've seen guys come into the league in that first year, have over 1,000 yards, and then never do it again, A guy like Kelvin Benjamin that you probably are familiar with in Buffalo, he did that his first year. Now, he barely got over 1,000 yards, but, that was one of those famed, wide receiver draft classes where you had, I think Benjamin might have been the final first-round pick of that draft class at the receiver position, but you had, Odell Beckham and Mike Evans and Benjamin and all those guys. There's so many studs taken in that year's draft. And a lot of them went over 1,000 yards their rookie season, but Benjamin didn't do it again. Michael Clayton in Tampa Bay, 1,000 yards his first season, never went over 1,000 yards again in his career. Like, we've seen guys do that before, but it's rare. If you're dominant and you come in like Odell Beckham, I think Justin Jefferson's first year was really akin to Odell Beckham Jr.'s, where you come in, Odell didn't even play the first 2-3 weeks, and he ended up with like 93 catches in like 1,300 yards in his rookie season. Everybody's like, oh my God. And then he had the one-handed 3-finger catch against the Cowboys on a Sunday night. And you're like, this guy's spectacular.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people just kind of liken what Justin Jefferson did to Odell Beckham. Like, this guy's a freak. He's gonna do this over and over and over again. But like you said, you got to prove it. You got to do it more than once. But I don't think they see him not doing it again. And the same thing can be said. That's why a lot of people put Justin Herbert in those conversations, because they just don't see him not doing it again. But you got to do it again. You know,
right?
The NFL.
And, you know, and I'm not saying that the offense of the Vikings is anything fantastic, you know, but I would say that, you know, a guy like Justin Jefferson, although he's extremely talented, and I'm not just saying this because I have you on and I love the Washington football team. Like, I'm not just trying to speak up the football team, but I truly am a humongous Terry McLaurin fan. Like, I feel like you put Terry McLaurin right in Justin Jefferson's spot. I mean, I think Terry McLaurin is doing something relatively similar, right? I mean, I think Justin Jefferson is a beneficiary of a play action, you know, very play action heavy offense. Dalvin Cook is the main guy in that offense. You know, everybody's terrified of him getting the ball. You know, Justin Jefferson's got that free will to usually only have to beat one guy downfield. And, you know, I think Terry McLaurin in such a situation would also be able to do the same thing. And, you know, Justin Jefferson deserves all the credit in the world, but I do think he's slightly a beneficiary of a scared secondary that is always having to worry about the main guy on that offense being Dalvin Cook. So, you know, and that's, like I said, not to take away from Justin Jefferson, but I think he just has to do it again. But I do also think he's partially a beneficiary of a system that helps him out.
Yeah, fair point. I mean, a lot of Washington football team fans kind of echo those sentiments. Like, I've made the case that Terry's not top 10 yet. You know, he's not top 10 yet, and they don't want to hear that. You know, and I said he's right on the outskirts. I think I did a list, and he was like 12th or something like that. Like, he's knocking on the door literally, and they just don't want to hear that right now, because they think that if he had, you know, better circumstances, a better quarterbacking situation. Well, I'm like, don't talk to me about Justin Jefferson having a better quarterback situation. We had that guy here, and you didn't want him. Okay? So I don't want to hear it from you, because 90% of you didn't want that guy here when he was here. Okay? So I don't want to hear that. So, you know, when I hear fans talk about stuff like that, and they're like, man, if he had another receiver, you know, obviously Adam Thielen is in Minnesota, if we're using that same comparison. And the guy that we always compare Terry to in Washington is DK Metcalf, because they're in the same draft. He went before Terry, and they're in the same year. So DK had a monster year last year, and Terry wasn't that far behind him. But, you know, DK is perceived to be way better than Terry. And when you look at their numbers, they're very comparable. And all Washington fans want to say is, he's got Russell Wilson. What does Terry have? And I'm like, I hear you, but I always just harken back to this. DK Metcalf is 6'4", 235. Terry McLaurin is 6 feet, 205.
Yep.
That's where the discussion starts. That's where it
ends. Right. Yeah. And that's why I think, you know, and absolutely that argument is something that has been going on for ever since I got drafted. And that's why I think I think more of an argument could be made for Justin Jefferson against Terry McLaurin. I think they're more comparable. Yeah. I think they're definitely the two receivers in comparison that you can make. You know, throw DK Metcalf out the window for an argument like this. I think those two guys are a lot more comparable. And I think, you know, when people think Justin Jefferson and Terry McLaurin, I think they see Justin Jefferson even higher than Terry McLaurin, than they see DK Metcalf. Like, I think it probably in most people's minds go Justin Jefferson, DK Metcalf, and then Terry McLaurin.
Oh, and you could throw AJ Brown in there, because and everybody has AJ Brown ahead of him as well.
Right?
They're all in that same draft. You know, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, Terry. So we always compare those three because they were all in the same draft class. And I think Washington fans have Terry ahead of both of those guys. And I'm like, he's behind both of those guys.
Yeah. Right now. Yeah, he's definitely, I would agree, he's definitely behind. And, you know, I don't think he's top 10 either. I don't think I would put DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, AJ Brown, or Justin Jefferson in my top 10 yet. I mean, I think all four of these guys are going to be there in 2-3 years at most. Right. But, you know, it just, I don't know. I just get really bothered when people are just so quick to throw young guys in a conversation like that, because I think it's a prestigious honor to be in such a positional ranking like that. I mean, you gotta be somebody that's been doing it for a very long time at that kind of level to be put there. So definitely wanted to get
body of work. I agree with you.
Right. So I think that's about all the tangents I got. I mean, this went a lot longer than I expected, but this was a blast, man. Talking to you was fun, man. You brought a lot of different perspectives to me. It was a great time. I appreciate it.
I really enjoyed it, man. I thank you for having me on the show.
Of course, man. Thank you very much.
There we go. Just another installment of Coach Me Up in the books. Boy, was it a good one. It was just, if you stuck through the whole thing, hats off to you, because that was just fantastic conversation. Louie has a very, very unique way. He's extremely smart, like I mentioned in the intro. He's got a very, very unique way of opening your mind to different possibilities, because for me, I'm extremely, opinionated, and it takes a lot for me to change my mind on some things, and he really opened my mind on a lot of different topics throughout this episode, and that just goes to show how smart and well-spoken that Louie really is. So, he's got the following he does for a reason. Be sure you're checking him out on all socials. He was a pleasure to have on the channel. Big thank you to Louie for hopping on. I hope he enjoyed himself. I hope you enjoyed watching the video. I know I enjoyed myself, but nevertheless, if you enjoyed the video, and I hope you did, please like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. If you want to hit the bell to be notified when I upload, I would appreciate that. You want to go over to Twitter, follow me over there, I would appreciate that as well. I'm part of the Built-in Buffalo content creation team. Enjoy Buffalo Bills content, be sure to follow and subscribe to us on any social medias that you may have, and I hope to see you in the next one. Be sure you go follow and check out Louie's stuff. He is just fantastic. I will see you in the next one. Peace.